Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. Thank you for joining us today. Right now, I have as my guest Pranav Nanda. Welcome, Pranav, to the wonderful stage of the Team Racing YouTube Live. Welcome, Pranav.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. I am doing well. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us. Let me begin. Tell me a little bit about your background, what you're running for, and why you've decided to run this year.
Definitely. Well, once again, thank you so much for having me on the show. My name's Pranav Nanda. I'm running as a write-in candidate for ANC 6C04. So that's the area close to Union Station, Stanton Park, H Street area. A little bit about myself. I am lived in DC for about 5.5 years, and in this neighborhood for almost a year and a half. I'm a proud member of the DC chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, the DC Education Coalition for Change, and the Ward 6 Mutual Aid Network. So through those organizations, I've done a lot of advocacy and organizing around DC. My background is I professionally was a teacher in Kansas City. So prior to moving back to DC, I taught high school social studies and then have been working in education policy for the last year and a half. I just started at Georgetown Law School. So the real reason I'm running for the ANC is I've always thought that the ANC is a really cool position in DC, and actually something that separates a lot of kind of cities from the way they locally govern. I
Yeah.
think it's a really powerful thing to be able to have such a localized, neighborhood focused position. But unfortunately, I've seen just through conversations with my neighbors and across DC that I don't think the ANC is really being utilized to its full potential. I think the ANC has incredible power to elevate issues and causes that neighbors are talking about, amplify the work that the community is doing, and get those kind of values and messages brought into like all the way up to city level and even the federal level if it was being worked correctly. But unfortunately, I think through conversations with my neighbors, a lot of people don't know what the ANC is, what did they have the ability to do for them, don't know who their commissioners are. You see across the city, a lot of ANC races are uncontested. You have people who just kind of continue to do it because, frankly, I think because no one really even is paying attention. Um, so that's why I decided to run to really make sure that my community knew what the ANC was, that
Yeah.
the ANC was working in a transparent way and working for them.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's so great to see when people are really motivated, when it comes to civic duties and all of that, especially in a year like this. Tell me, what are some of the issues in your neighborhood that you would like to tackle if elected to the post as ANC commissioner for your neighborhood?
Yeah, so I'm really running on 4 or 5 major issues. One is gun violence in DC. Unfortunately, we've seen the gun homicide rate continue to rise in my neighborhood, in my ward, but also just frankly across Washington, DC. I'm also running on educational equity. Obviously, schools are, uh, in my opinion, the most major institution in communities. And obviously, for a lot of kids, families, teachers, this year has been incredibly difficult. The switch transitioning to distance learning, the uncertainty of the fall, back and forth about kind of hybrid models. So, wanting to make sure that every student has and every family has the resources they need to be successful. Third, I live, like I said, in kind of the Union Station, Noma area, which is home to two of the largest home encampments. So we have an increasingly large unhoused population, and I really feel that we need to make sure that we're supporting our unhoused community, both kind of in the immediate short term with the resources and supports that they need, just kind of day to day, but also more importantly for long term solutions to end chronic homelessness, provide more affordable housing. And then fourth kind of encompasses all of them about just general transparency and accountability. This year has been incredibly hard for so many people across
Yeah.
DC, whether it's economically, health related, school, you name it. We've been facing crisis after crisis after crisis. And I think it's just even more important than usual in this year, in kind of the landscape of the city, that people's values are being reflected in decision making, and they're not just kind of afterthoughts, and you have small populations of people making decisions for everyone, but you're really elevating the values of the community in some of the decisions we're making as a city.
Wow, yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's also important. Tell me how it has been for you to have to, navigate this campaign during a global pandemic, and how much the pandemic has altered or changed your priorities, or influenced your priorities as you're running right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, just from a campaigning perspective, I think it's definitely provided a lot of challenges for people running, because obviously I want to be out there meeting my neighbors, talking to them, hearing about the issues they care about. But obviously, a lot of the traditional forms of campaigning, whether it's door to door, a lot of people are hesitant about, and rightfully so, because safety has to be the number one precaution. So it has been difficult, but at the same time, I've been blessed to be able to have a lot of really good conversations still virtually, via email, using all the kind of virtual platforms, connecting on Twitter, social media, doing conversations like this today to really get the issue areas out. But in terms of how the pandemic has impacted the actual issue areas I care about, I think it really goes to the last thing I was talking about, that I mean, we as a city and as a nation are facing so many different crises, whether it's been the pandemic, whether it's been the economic impact of the pandemic, whether it's been seeing the racial and income disparities of how the pandemic has impacted people. And all of these kind of go back to the idea I was talking about, that like we need to make sure as we recover as a city, we are doing so in a way that reflects the values of the community, that people most directly impacted by these issue areas are the people who have seats in the table. Because you'll find, if you're having conversations with people who are unhoused, like they have the solutions. It's not that they don't know what they need. They need it. It's about our leaders asking them what they need and finding ways to support. So I think it's just the pandemic has illuminated a lot of these long-standing issues that have existed well before COVID. And I think what is important about kind of the recovery process is not just going back to business as normal, because business as normal was not good enough for so many people even before the pandemic. So it's about building back in a way that reflects the values of the community and in a way that actually works for everyone.
Definitely, definitely. Well, for viewers out there who would, like to support your campaign, or who would like to know more by following you and keeping up with you, tell me, how can they go about do that?
Yeah, so you could first just send me an email at elect Pranav Nanda, Pranav Nanda at gmail.com. You could visit my website at pranavnanda6C04.com, or follow me on Twitter at pranavnandadc. And like I said, just really appreciate and want to be able to communicate with as many of my neighbors as possible, because this campaign is not about me as an individual. Like I said, like it's about using a platform like the ANC to make sure that all of our values are being uplifted. All of us have a seat at the decision-making table, and that we're really being the ones driving on these issues rather than being kind of prescribed. So just would love to have the opportunity to talk to as many people as possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pranav. And thanks so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Best of luck on the election.
Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.